Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. Talking Cardboard here, getting ready to play the game Revive. Now, I myself have never actually played this game and don't know how to play it, but Corey and John, sitting here on my right, have played this game, and maybe like many of you watching this video, you're interested in learning how this game works and how to play this game and are interested in this game in general, and that's great because Corey is actually going to give kind of a detailed overview of this game, how the game works, give us kind of a step-by-step gameplay of how the game works. And so with that said, Corey, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, and we don't have a name to this segment quite yet, but we're just going to run through the first couple rounds of play so you all can understand how it plays, and if you think it looks cool, maybe go out and buy it for yourself, and if it doesn't look cool, then you save your money that way too. So we're just going to kind of get into it with a rules explanation, play the first couple rounds, go from there. This game is new, it is hot, like Nick said, and John and I have played before. We're not going to really give our opinions too much on what we think of it, maybe a later review video for that, but yeah, let's just dive into how the game is played. So pretty much the overview of the theme of this game, the theme doesn't really pour through very well in this game, I would say, but the theme is it's 5,000 years in the future. It is post-apocalyptic. We have all been inside this chasm in the center of the board for 5,000 years underground. It's pretty much like I don't know if it's technically a post-apocalyptic for reasons other than just like an ice age type of deal going on, to where the surface has been completely frozen over. So we have been in this chasm in the hole, and now as things are starting to thaw out and we're going out to explore the other lands, we are trying to do that to essentially gain victory points. Whoever has the most victory points at the end of the game wins, and we're going to do that in various ways. The main way we're going to do that here is on our player boards. Each player board has a unique asymmetric faction. The asymmetric factions have a sunny side and a moon side to both of the player factions. We're all playing on the sun side here today, which is more of the basic version, but there are advanced rules for other ways to play the game as well. We're just doing the very, very basic overview of the game here today. The main mechanisms in this game are just very, very simple. We each have these player cards here that tell you what actions you can do on your turn. And there are 5 different options you can do on the main action side of the card, or you choose to do a hibernation action, which I'll get into a little bit later. The main mechanisms in this game are, the first thing here is play a card. We all have these character cards in front of us. These are our characters that are awake and ready to go to work for the day. These are characters that will come up later that are currently in hibernation and sleeping for the night. The way this works is that, like I said, one of the actions is you can play a card to your player board here. You can either play it to the top half or the bottom half of your player board by choosing whichever, either the top half or the bottom half actions on the card. So if I were to play this card on the top, for example, it would get me 2 of the resources shown on the card. So it would give me 2 book resources that I would then go up here on the book track there and give me more resources to do later things with in the game. Similarly, you have a bottom half to the card here, which if you place the card underneath your player board, you get the resources and or actions on the bottom half of the card. So I'm just going to go over some of the icons here a little bit and what they mean. So it's actually a good example the way this game was randomly set up here for the teach here today, because I have all of the resources displayed at the top of the cards here. You've got books, gears, and food. The different resources are good at doing different actions in the game. The food is good at actually feeding your people to explore further out into the region, and obviously you have to feed your people as they're traveling, so that makes sense. So food is good for that. The gears are good at building. We have small houses and large houses here on the main, or on your character board here, which I'll get into why those are important later, but gears are good at building things, as one would expect. And then the books are actually good at populating and using your population meeples to populate cities around the board. You need more books to obviously populate the cities in that way too. So those are what the 3 different resources are good at. The wild resource is the crystals. You can use that for any of one of the other 3 resources. So that is essentially playing out cards either for their top half ability or their bottom half of the card ability. And the next thing on the card here is the switch. In the basic game, the switch is simply you switch it down here on your board and you can gain one of any of the basic 3 resources that you want. And you can't get the switch back up until your hibernation phase later in the round. In the advanced version of the game, that does evolve into other actions that you can do that are more involved, but for the basic game, it's just one common resource of any type. The other 3 things are what you're actually spending your resources on to do. So for exploration, that is here the eyeball thing, you are actually going out and trying to explore the different regions of the land. You've got these different locations that you can explore, these ice regions that you can explore. The cost to explore is shown on the tile. So for example, this tile here has 3 bags of food. You need to pay 3 of your food resources in order to flip that tile. The bonus you get from the tile is shown on the bottom half. So 2 immediate victory points, and you get to add 1 additional crew member from the display of the crew up here immediately into your awake crew that you can use for that round. There are icons on the back sides of these tiles also that kind of give you an example of what's going to be on the other side. So you have some that are lakes, like the water regions, and you have some that are the cities, and that's where you can populate. So that kind of gives you a little indication of what those are going to be. With exploring, you also have to start the game exploring from the chasm, because we're all waking up underground and coming out from there. And depending on the range between where you're exploring and the chasm is how much food you have to pay to travel that far. So if you wanted to explore this tile, for example, it's 2 tiles away, so you have to pay 2 food just to get there, and then you'd have to pay for the cost to explore that. So it's very expensive.
So do we start with like a meeple in the center to represent our different players, or?
We don't. We just all start from the chasm and work our way out, and then eventually, as we're building buildings and populating cities, you can work off of those new buildings.
Got
and
it.
population.
Okay, so it's kind of like a waypoint.
Yep,
almost.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's the starting waypoint.
Okay.
Okay.
And one important thing to remember is you always start from the chasm, but as soon as you have 1 building or person onto the board, you are now always counting from your own units.
Oh, okay.
No longer can you count from the chasm.
Okay.
Yep. Even if the chasm is closer to where you're exploring, you now
Got
have
it.
to use a building or a
Interesting.
person. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So that is back to the player board here. That would be the explore action there. The next thing you can do is actually build a building. And how you build the buildings, like I said, you need gears to build the buildings. The cost of the buildings are shown on the left-hand side of the board here. So the small buildings only cost 3 gears. The large buildings cost 5 gears. You can only build buildings on the brown regions of the board. And the reason why you'd want to build a building is because you get the bonuses of anything adjacent to the building that you build. So the same is true with the distance that you'd have to pay to build a building. For example, if you have another building out or a person out or from the chasm, you still have to pay for distance. And then wherever you put that building down, you get the adjacent bonuses. So for example, if I were to build a small building for 3 gears and put it here, it would cost me 3 gears and 1 food because of the distance to travel there. And I would immediately get a green movement on my machine, a gray, and a yellow movement on my machine board here. So we'll get to that a little bit later. The other thing that's cool too is you can build these larger buildings for 5 gears. The reason why you want to do that, let's say you had enough to build that instead of the smaller one and put it there for the 5 gears and the 1 food to get there, is that you get to trigger those twice instead of only once. So you get 2 green, 2 gray, and 2 yellow on your main player machine board, but we'll get to that here in a second. The last action you can do, that is the last paid action, is this populate action. The populate action is actually how you get these population meeples off of your player board to open up some additional either passive or additional actions you can do on your turn, but they can only populate the cities on the board. And the cities are these gray tiles here. Those are the only things they can populate. You still have to pay for distance. For example, if you're coming out of the chasm and I didn't have this building out there, there is no distance between that and that city there, so it wouldn't cost me any additional food, but it would cost me the cost next to the meeple, or the population meeple on the board. So for example, my first one here would cost me 2 books to populate that spot, and I could put it out there as my population, and now that is a new waypoint that I can work off of when calculating the distance between things. I can use my meeple now for that. It's pretty much all it's good for is expanding out for your different waypoints you can work off of, and also just unlocking your main player board to open up those effects. Back to the player board here, when you are unlocking additional population, you have to follow the tracks as you work your way up to the top and as you unlock things. So you can see that there's 3 different paths that you can work up. You can't just skip ahead of not following those paths. So as you're unlocking your population on your main player board, you're unlocking additional abilities, different technologies, and other things you can do, which we'll get into later. The other thing too is when you're populating a city, if you're the first one to populate there, it just costs the cost of whatever the population is to the right-hand side on your player board. But if somebody else is there before you, you have to give the person who is already there an additional book straight to them. So you're not only paying the 2 for your person, but if Nick were already there, for example, I would have to pay a third book, which would directly go to him.
In a three-person game, there's the possibility that 2 other people will be there. You each get a book. The other thing that's important with placing items onto the board is for your own units, you can only have 1 in any tile. Population can have 1 of every color in the cities, but once you build a building onto a tile, that is only your tile.
Okay.
So those are the 5 different actions you can do, and you can choose up to 2 of them using these handy-dandy cubes there, or you can choose a hibernation action, which is using both of your cubes to do the hibernation. And those are basically just a procedural step thing that you follow here on the card. Mainly what this is saying is that anybody who is, let's say I had some cards played out here, for example, let's say I left that guy alone because I only used 2 actions to play the cards. Anybody who is in hibernation now wakes up, gets added to a part of your day crew, and then anybody who worked for the day goes into hibernation, and they'll be used in a future turn. That is the both icons there. The other thing here too is we haven't gotten into the machine board yet, but if you have powered up any of your machines, you get the lightning bolt power back to the center of your board that you can reuse in the future. If you have used your switch, you then reset your switch, and then you go up on the far end of the main board over here, 1 spot using your big token there, and taking the bonus associated with that spot or any of the bonuses beneath it as you get higher up the track. So for example, I would get a module on that spot, which is a good time to segue into what the modules mean. So the modules here at the top of the board, there's 5 of them to choose at all times. Once one is picked, we replenish it with a new one. And those modules give you different bonuses as you play cards. So for example, here, if I were to pick this module, you can slot it into any of the top or bottom parts of your board. If you slot it into one of the spots on your board that has a check mark, you immediately get that bonus. So I would get a gear for slotting it there where that check mark is. I would get a gear immediately. Now in the future, what that's telling me is it has colors on the module here as well. So it's got gray and yellow. Anytime I play a gray or a yellow card now into that slot, it is now powering that module. So I'd not only get a gear and a food, but I'd get an additional gear for it matching with that color.
Okay.
So 2 gears and a food for that. And all the modules work the same way with different bonuses. You've got crystals and gears and food and everything else on there. So that is another way to ramp that up.
Looking at the module colors, I see, like, for example, this one is green on both sides.
Yep.
So does that mean
It
only
would-
green
it would
cards help that?
Only green, yep.
Yeah.
They would still only trigger once. You wouldn't get like 2 from
Exactly.
one card.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. So that is how that works. You can slot additional modules into the same area. So when you place a card there, all of them trigger, but you only get the check mark bonus of it once when you place it into that check mark area. So that is how modules work. Now getting into the main machine board here. And this is kind of the cream of the crop and kind of the engine building and the combos that you can do with the game. So like we talked about earlier here on the main board over here, is that when you build a building next to those, that's how you go up on those colored tracks. If you build a small building, you go up 1 on each track. If you build a large building, you go up 2 on each of those tracks of whatever is adjacent to the building you just placed. Doing that is very easy. You just take whatever color cylinder of the track you're going up and you move it up that many spaces. So let's say I went up 2 on the yellow. Let's say I built a big building there. 2 of the yellow, 2 on the green, and 2 on the gray. You then check to see what of these machines you've either reached or passed and unlock those. So for example, on the green location here, it only requires that I get to level 2 green. I've gotten to level 3, so I can pull that disc off, put it to the left side of my player board here, which is good for endgame scoring, because the higher the discs you pull off and put on there, the more points you get at the end of the game. But it also unlocks this machine now here for me to use. All the machines have different abilities and different things you can do. All the machine boards are the same for each player, so if you have a question on what yours does, I can reference my own board for that. But for example, this first green machine here just says any person you've already used in the day phase to slot into one of the locations, you can take it and put it into hibernation, so you get it immediately back that next round. You don't have to wait 2 rounds to get it back. How you activate these different machines, let's say I did activate the yellow there, and the gray, I activated the first gray by going up 2 on each of those, so I'm already up that far. And some of these actually give you different bonuses as you slot them higher as well. But how you activate one of the machines is you have to have enough energy to activate them in the center of your board. So if I did want to activate that ability, I would have to put the energy on the spot to activate it, and then I would get to do the action. If you're out of energy in the center, the only way you can get it back to the center is, like we said, back to the player card here, is the hibernation action, which it says you get all of your energy back to the center of your board. Otherwise, it just sits out there powering the machines that you've already powered, and it can't be used during that round at all. So that is how you eventually power your machines and get the energy back. There are a few other things. I'll just go over the basic ones. The yellow adds +1 range to wherever you're going out on the board, so you don't have to spend that extra food to get there. And the gray one is you can turn any one of your basic resources into a crystal just by powering that up. And like I said, that's a free action available to any of the players on their turn before they choose to use one of these action cubes for the main actions.
So I'm guessing there is a way to get more of the power whitening bonus.
Correct.
Yes.
The main way is through unlocking the tokens onto the sideboard. As you'll see at 3, 7, and 12, you actually get an energy for getting to those checkpoints.
Okay.
Yep.
So the most you ever could get is then 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's not quite true. So the other way to get energy that you were asking about is through, as you notice on some of the exploration tiles, it's showing a lake. Lakes contain various benefits that each player can gain once by building a building next to that lake. No matter how many buildings you have around it, if you play your large building adjacent to a place that has upgrades for your machine track and a lake, the machine track upgrades would trigger twice. However, the lake always only triggers once per player, no matter what you're building next to it.
Yep. Another thing kind of backtracking with these large bonuses for endgame scoring over here also that I wanted to quickly say is these are large cities that you can populate with your population also. So you've got the small gray cities that population can go on, the population meeples, but then as you explore, once the land is explored enough to get to these large cities, you can then pull off your population off your main player board over here and populate the large city, and that is good for endgame scoring. I should say that anything that's purple is endgame scoring, anything that's blue is immediate scoring. So all this one, for example, is saying is that for each population you have on the main board at the end of the game, you get 2 points per population. But it has to be explored to that. You can't skip ice to get there. That's the same holds true with all.
And for reference for this game specifically, Nick, the end game scoring we're looking at and maybe you're going to be building towards is, like Corey said, you get 2 points per population you get on the board, 4 points per large building you've gotten onto the board, 2 points per flask you have in your machine board, which comes up off the tiles off the left. You'll see them on there. And the last one here is 1 point for each upgrade you've gone up on the gray machine track.
What would you guys say is the most common way to get victory points in the game? Is it the end game scoring things or the...
I think the first time we played, I would say exploration can definitely give you a lot. Obviously, if you're going up on the machine tracks, that's also really good. There are benefits to getting to the end of the tracks. You get 2 points per card you've bought that matches the color of that track. You also get points through getting artifacts, which we haven't touched on yet. So there's a lot of various ways to get points throughout the game, but you will see some of the biggest numbers on the exploration tiles.
So the other thing with the machine track is you have these machine bonuses here that you can put on your main board. Anytime that you unlock one of the indented spaces, some of them actually require 2 tracks to get up to that point. So for example, this one here requires a level 3 green and a level 7 at minimum gray, and then you get to unlock that. And immediately when you unlock one of these large question marks that are indented to the board, you can take any one of the 3 face-up tokens of that color and then immediately slot it onto your board. Now that not only gives you that flask for late game scoring, but it also gives you a bonus that you can power up with your lightning now as well. And another thing here too we haven't gone over is kind of the main elephant in the room here is for the end game scoring, the alien artifact tiles, and also the crates that are listed on some of these point spots on the board as well. I'm just going to go over the crates real quickly because that's the easiest thing to explain. As soon as you get up to the 5, 10, 20 point mark on the score track, you immediately get one of the face down crates over there, and you can look at it. You can look at what's inside the crate, but you can trigger it or open the crate at any time as a free action on your turn in the future. And it's just various bonuses that you can get. The other thing too that you'll notice is The 15-point spot, for example, is an alien artifact, and you have some alien artifact unlock things on your left-hand side of your board that you can open up as well, or trigger as well, on the 5.1, for example, and that actually might be the only one on your own player board. But as you get to those spots, you can then take any color alien artifact you want off the main board here and add it face up in front of you for endgame scoring. So why is that important? We all have a starting endgame scoring secret mission card on our side of the board. It's secret. I'll just flip it here and take a new one before the game begins so I can just explain how that works. But each one of these have endgame scoring things that you're going after. Each one of us automatically starts off with a purple, orange, and a gray alien artifact, so we're at least triggering it once. But as you gain additional alien artifacts to your side, it'll trigger it multiple times depending on the number of alien artifacts you have. So for example, this one says for endgame scoring, you get 1 point for every energy token you have on your board at the end of the game. Or let's say you had 3 of the purples, you would get 3 points for every energy token. The orange says anytime you've triggered your special ability on your player board, which I haven't discussed but I'll talk about here, you get a point for that. And then you get 1 point for every population you have on the main board per gray alien artifact you have. Like I said, everybody automatically starts off with one of them, so you're automatically scoring it no matter what. So the last thing, I'll get a new one here before the game starts, but the last thing I wanted to discuss is some of these cards do have a star icon on the bottom of the card, and so when you place it beneath your player board, you are triggering your special ability action. And looking over here on the main player board here, each one of us has an asymmetric player power for our main power here. You not only get to uncover one of the discs for doing it and place it on your main machine board to increase the endgame scoring for that and bonuses for that, but you also get to trigger the special ability. Mine is simply, I take 2 books resources. You guys all have something a little bit different as well, but that's a little bit of the asymmetry in this game, is that special ability unique thing. What's really powerful, it's not necessarily even the ability that you get off of doing it, but just getting these disc tiles for endgame scoring is so crucial, I think, to winning the game also. So that helps you get towards that. Once you uncover all 5 of the discs by doing 5 of your special player power actions, using that icon there, you can still continue to do it, but you can only ever get 5 of the discs the first 5 times you do that on the left-hand side of your board. So that just kind of prevents you from doing it too often for that reason. That's pretty much the game in a nutshell. We can kind of explain our actions during the first couple rounds here as we go, but any questions off the top of your head?
Yes. So one question I had is, we have a score track on our own player board here on the side.
Yep.
And then there's also the score track on the big board.
So to clarify, this is the score track. This is an end game bonus you're going to get based on where you got the markers filled in. So that gets you bonuses as you place the markers, and then gives you a one-time bonus onto your score.
Got it. Okay.
Yep, the highest revealed icon at the end of the game is how many endgame scoring you're going to get. Yep.
Okay. And then when you have these workers, like at the start, at the top, the awake workers is what you call them, right?
Yeah.
Is there a limit to how many awake workers?
There is not.
Okay.
You can have any number of awake workers. Obviously, you are only limited to the slots you have to play them into.
Yes, that's
there is an upgrade that allows you to unlock a slot on the right. This is not open originally, but you'll notice on your faction card that one of the populate upgrades opens that up for you.
And everybody has that same one on the populate.
So this is locked.
Yes.
Technically.
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
They don't have
until you unlock it with that icon there, which is the same as your middle population icon on your board.
There's not a token then.
Nope.
Nope.
I like that in Kanban.
Yeah, they do have the token. You have to, or the lock tokens, right? What's really cool about this side one here, looking at the player board too, that you unlock, like we're just talking about with population here, is that you can place a card either using its top or its bottom in that slot. Whereas this can only be for the top action, this can only be for the bottom action. This can be for either or.
Got it.
Which is really nifty.
So that's that point too. Okay.
Yeah. That's pretty much the game in a nutshell.
Oh, and then for the scoring, final scoring. So the artifacts are like a multiplier of that.
You always score everything on your card once at the end, but then you multiply it by how many extra artifacts you've gotten.
So, and you said we start with a gray one.
So you
on that card there.
Basically, what Corey's saying is you score everything on here once because just
think,
because.
Think of it this way. So, here, I'll show you my card.
Yeah.
So you have a purple icon here already, right?
Yep.
So you're scoring that automatically one time. But if I were to acquire another purple one, I just add it to that existing one, and now there's technically two
I see what you're
there.
saying. Yeah. So this card.
That
So
card
this
counts as
kind
well.
of is where you store the.
You kind of are
Artifacts.
strategizing because as you go, maybe one of those 3 scoring opportunities you're going to have, you've invested more into. So you may want to start choosing the artifact that matches that scoring condition. And that gets us into how does the game actually end. So as we're playing, we're going to be getting these artifacts. As soon as the last artifact token is taken, whoever either took it or for some reason it got removed due to this ability on the hibernation track would take the 4-point minor artifact, which then triggers the last round of the game. As soon as their turn is over, the other players each get one more turn where they can maybe get additional minor artifacts instead of major artifacts. And then, once those 2 players are done, the game ends, you hit end game scoring, and away you go.
get
So
started
we're going to reset Corey's board here and get him a new victory card. Corey did get first player, so he will start.
Please.
Every player gets a set of starting worker cards randomly. They're just separated through groups A through D. And you just toss them out randomly.
I got C as random.
So you can take one of those piles. I'm going to toss this into the bay.
Shuffle it up.
So in this game, it's been determined that Corey is our first player. The starting resources work such that the first player gets 1 crystal. The second player, myself, then gets 1 crystal and the next resource, which happens to be a gear. And then finally, our third player, Nick, will get a crystal, a gear, and then the third resource, which is a book.
Yep. And in a 4-player game, the 4th player would get that additional 4th
Food.
resource
Yeah.
as the food.
Yep.
All right, so starting on my turn here, I think the first thing I want to do, kind of looking at my main player board, what the actions I can develop here, what I'm good at doing. Actually, these should be reset here as well. It's my fault for that. I think I want to go after some resources that would be handy for me. So the first thing I want to do is play a card. So I'm going to put the cube on there. And resources I want to get, I think I want to start populating right away, so I need some more books for that. So I'm just going to go ahead and simply take this card, play it for the top half of it, and I get a gear and a book. And then the second thing I want to do is populate, and I'm going to take my first population, place it on the nearest city to the chasm so I don't have to pay any food to travel. So that's over there, and I have to pay the cost. So the cost is $2 plus any travel I had to do, so it's just the $2. I only have 1 book, so I have to pay 1 book, but I can use my crystal as a wild, so for my second book there. And that was my populate action. Now I've unlocked not only 2 victory points at the end of the game, but also a special ability. My first one here, which is asymmetric from them two, is I may spend my books instead of food or gears when paying costs. So I really want to just go after those books, because now books are wild for me. So my turn is over. Pass the cubes over to John, and now he can take his turn.
Yeah, I think mine's also going to be pretty easy here. I'm going to... Oh, boy. This is
Pretty
tough.
easy, he
Yeah.
says.
Pretty easy as I get stumped. We also want to do something similar. So I'm going to play a card. Actually, my turn's going to be easy. We're going to play 2 cards. We're going to play a card. We are going to play my green man up into here to get 2 books. So I'll move up on that track. And then my second action will to also be able to play my yellow card up top to get myself another book and a food.
Stocking up on resources.
And then I'll pass the cubes to Nick.
Okay, so in terms of actions, everyone was getting resources, it seems.
It's pretty good to gather up your resources.
So I'm going to go ahead and do that, I guess, as a first action.
Okay.
And this guy gets me 2 gears, so you said gears are good.
Gears are good for building, yep.
Building's important, I think.
Yeah. That's how you unlock more of your machine board, which is really nice.
So, yeah. And then, how do... So I know these symbols allow you to move up your your
Yeah.
track here.
So you'd have to build next to them.
So you'd have to build in the sand region. So
Sand
you wanted
region,
these
yeah.
ones, or maybe you build here to get a
those.
gray and 2 green.
But here is a green, yellow, and green.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Anything you're adjacent to. So
Then also
And-
paying for the distance in food. This is a 0 distance from the from the chasm, so it cost you 0 food. But if you
Yes.
wanted to go there, it would cost you 1 food to travel there. In
Yes.
addition to building something.
Is there a general benefit between the gray, yellow, and green? Like, is one track better than tracks better than the others?
gray, the bonus items that you can get for gray have to do mostly with gears. So gray are gears. So what do gears do in this game for you? They help you build. They help you with machines. So you're looking at benefits of getting energy back by spending gears. And then you can spend gears to get victory points. The green track is more about the cards you play. So it's going to trigger like additional procs of your cards. It's going to get you modules. And it also has to do with, books. So it might have something to do with making your populate action cheaper. And then yellow obviously corresponds to food. So you use food for range. So a lot of the yellow bonus machines have to do with decreasing or adding range, so you pay less food to build and populate. You can trade in food for victory points. You can take explore actions for infinite range with some of the upgrades. So really it just corresponds to the resource that matches its color.
Okay. So, and going back to build, am I able to build then if I have the 3 gears now?
Yes, 3
Yep.
gears or 2 gears in a crystal.
So,
Yep.
since I have the 3 gears, I'm able to put a building there because it's 0, and since it's adjacent to the center, it's 0 food.
Correct.
So
Yep.
then I just take that down to 0.
And then you're using that action cube to actually
Yeah.
build there.
Yep.
Yep.
And now you get the benefits of placing your building there, which are to take those upgrades on your machine track.
So it's one of each one of each trigger because it's a small building. If you were to have placed a large building, you would have triggered each of those twice.
Oh yeah, I was wondering at the difference. Forgot the difference between. Okay, so then it's 2 green and a yellow.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right, so
Yep.
I go 1, 2 like that,
Yep.
and
Correct.
then a yellow is 1 there,
Yep.
and then because I passed 2, I get this.
Yep.
Yep,
At
you-
or past, you get that. So that machine is unlocked. And now you are at that machine also with the yellow, so you can remove that disc.
So then this symbol, the X.
Any of the workers that are currently working for you in the daytime, you can put them into hibernation right away, so you get them immediately the next turn.
Oh, and then I
Otherwise,
have to use
you
the
have
power.
to skip
That's
it.
Yep.
right then. Okay.
Yep.
All right, and then sorry.
That gets you 1 additional range with the satellite, so you don't have to pay the food to get 1 range.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
then that's my turn.
That's simple, yep. Okay, so over to me here for my second turn. I'm just kind of trying to decide what I want to do. There's so many things to choose from in this game. So I think I might take a stocking up action, kind of like what John did on his first turn, and I am going to play a card. I'm going to play this gray card to the bottom of my board so that I can get the module benefit, which is one of those modules up there. And I'm going to make sure that I choose something that's got yellow on it, because my last card to play is yellow, just for the sake of comboing it. And let's go ahead and take this module here. I'm going to slot it in this slot, and because it's over a check mark, I get the gear immediately. And now, as my second action, I can stack it there and play another card, and because I'm playing a yellow card to the yellow module, I get the benefit for that, so I get 2 food and another gear. And that is it for my turn.
All right, back to me. So the first thing I'm going to do, if I have the resources for it, which I do, is to populate. And I'm actually going to go a different direction than Corey or Nick. So I need to pay my 2 books, and I am attempting to populate on this square, or hexagon. So that will cost me 2 books, just naturally to do the upgrade. And then I am 1 distance away, so I will also have to play 1 food to complete that. What that now gets me is I've unlocked the ability when I gain a resource with each new card I take. So I will get a resource matching the color of card I add to my tableau. And my second action will be to, I guess, play a card. Yes. In which this case, I now only have openings on the bottom of my board, so I will play this to increase my gray track by 1, which will unlock my ability to once per turn a resource into a crystal.
Nice.
I'll pass Nick.
So is this a city?
No.
No, those are just bonuses. Cities
Yeah.
are just the gray ones with buildings on
Yep.
it.
Okay.
Just the mountain looking ones.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Whose side it wasn't quite sure. Well, so I can play card, do this thing, which I don't know if I want to do that. Explore. Explore. Is that what this one is?
Yep.
And explore costs, I think, too much food for me right now. 'Cause
Quite
I need-
expensive.
Yeah. And I built the home, but that's because I had the building. That's because I had the gears, which I don't have gears anymore. And then settling, which settling was, no.
Got help.
It has to be a city, yeah.
Books. Yeah.
Mhm. And it would be one additional book to whoever's already there.
So I could put up Meeple here, but then I'm getting or there.
Yeah,
but I
you
get
get one either me or John.
Or you could wait to explore and then hopefully find your own. Like this tile has a city on it. Let's do those.
Yeah. So for me to do anything of importance, it looks like I'm gonna have to get more resources. So I'm gonna do for my first action that.
So I get a book and a food.
I get a book, I get a food, and then for my second action, I guess I'm going to also play another card, and this time it has to be in one of the bottom,
Yep.
because
It's
I've
the
used
only
up my 2 up
available.
there,
Yep.
which means I can only then get the bottom effect, which is a crystal,
Mhm.
which is a wild, so not horrible, I think.
Nice.
And then that's my action.
That's it for you. All right. So back over to my actions here. So I intentionally populated that city on the main board over here to get to this region at a cheaper cost, because now I can't go off the chasm anymore. I have to go off of my population and or buildings, and I do have population. So I think I'm going to try to build right next to that guy. So as my first action here, I'm going to choose the build. And I unfortunately only have enough gears and or crystals to build 3-cost building, which is the small one. So I'll go ahead and take that off. And back over to the main board here, I can place it next to my population, and it's adjacent, so it doesn't cost me any food to travel there. And it's a small building, so I get to trigger each one of those effects once. So I get a yellow, a green, and a gray. So back over to the main board here, I get my yellow, unlock that, my green, unlock that, and my gray, and unlock that. Each one of the 3 basic machines only take 1 spot to activate, so those are the easiest to get to. And then I think as a free action, I'm going to power up my green machine now, which I can take any one of my active people that are working throughout the day and put them immediately into hibernation. So I'm going to do that with, I think I'm just going to go ahead, and I'm eventually going to need more books. So I'm going to put this guy back into hibernation. Like we said, for the next round, there is no limit to your hand limit or to the limit amount of the people that are active for the day. So I can really stack up this pile as thick as I want to get for that next day, and it doesn't have any effect one way or the other. The other thing I want to do, I don't have any cards left to play. I already built the building. Don't have enough to populate or explore. So yes, we're going to have to
Gotta pull your lever.
pull the lever action. So pull the lever. I can take any one of the 3 generic resources. I can't take a crystal, but I'm trying to work my way up to. I think I really need to get up on that population strategy here. So that is it for my turn.
Another quick question then. So,
Yeah.
Corey, now you're now counting from this,
Hmm.
I had to, yes.
and you had to because does that count for buildings too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So for me, from now on, I'm counting from there.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. And now because I have 2 pieces out, I can count from either of them.
And you can choose, yeah,
Yeah.
once you have pieces.
Yes.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do for my turn, and one thing we kind of missed, is when Corey took a module, he needs to immediately repopulate it. So I'm going to use my switch to gain 1 food. And then I'm going to... I feel like I had a plan, but now I'm slowly realizing that I likely do not. Nope, I do. All right, we are going to take a Oh yeah, I'm going to do an explore action, which to explore this tile right here, which costs 2 food, and since I'm adjacent to it, that is no range, so that costs me 1 food and 1 crystal, since I do not have the second food requirement.
Wait, doesn't... Oh, you don't have... Oh, yeah,
can use
because
the
crystals
crystals
count.
as well.
Yep.
Yep. So as you reveal these tiles, you are allowed to rotate them however you want in order to place them.
And first take the bonuses on the back, I guess, too.
Yep. So I get the bonus on the back, so I will get 1 victory point, and I will get to buy a card out of the buy row. But first I want to play this tile. But how do I want to do that?
One thing to note too, while John's deciding, is if John already had a building where his, let's say where his population was, if that weren't a city, he could rotate the tile in such a way that he could immediately trigger one of the effects on the newly placed tile of anything touching his adjacent building, whether it was just revealed or whether you had, built it ahead of time. You still get the bonus right away.
And now I get to buy a card. So I am going to take... I hate them all, unfortunately.
You can take the top face down one at random.
Oh, that's correct. Let's do that. I have my ability unlocked, so I'm going to get a resource out of this regardless. Any cards you gain go directly into your active pool, which is nice. So I got a new card. It gives me a crystal on the top. On the bottom, it allows me when I'm doing a explore action, I get to add 2 range to my action. Since I gained a yellow card, I actually get to gain 1 food thanks to my ability.
Yes.
So for my turn, my understanding then is with the satellite, it subtracts a food requirement for distance.
It's basically saying you have +1 range inherently without having to pay food. Yep.
Okay, so if it was 1 away, it's now 0?
Yep.
Okay.
3 away, it reduces it to 2.
So, so here I'm thinking of now doing an explore action, and first off, since now I have this building, I count from here.
Yep.
So then,
Either one of those are 1 range away, technically.
technically, this is 1 range. This is 1 range. This is 1 range.
Yes.
But I'm gonna use my power to use my ability here.
Yep.
To make it 0 now. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this explore, and since I have only 1 food, I will also have to use a crystal to pay, because it was 2 food, right?
Yep.
So I have 1 food, and then I have to use a crystal.
Yep.
And then for books, I do have 2 books, so those go down.
Yep.
Down to 0.
And what do you get immediately at the bottom there? How many?
4
VPs?
victory
So
points.
4 victory points, and
Nice.
And you're going to get to buy a card.
then I get to buy a card. Is that free?
Yep. You could just take
Yep.
any one of those cards and
Okay.
place
Or
it in
1
your
at
active
random
pool.
from the top.
Yep.
Or 1 at random from the top, and
This is your explorer. here.
if and you said it immediately is like a playable card, right?
Yep. It goes into your active pool immediately.
Okay, and I'm guessing this symbol with like the 2.
That lets you get an energy back into your
200.
pool. Yep, off a machine. That one to the left lets you perform the populate
Ooh,
action
ooh.
at 1 less book. And the
Okay, I know what I'm gonna do.
gray one lets you do the build action at 1 less gear.
Actually, I don't know. Okay, but I don't know if this is the right thing to do or not. But I'm going to take this card, and then I flip this over to this
Yep,
other
and
side.
place it
Place
in
it
whatever
however you want.
orientation you would like.
And I place it however I want.
2 options.
This is interesting. It's 2 of any color, right?
Hmm.
Ooh,
Something to keep in mind too is that, like for example, if you had it that way, it is closer to me that I could hop over there and take some of those bonuses also.
Yeah,
But yeah,
you wouldn't do that to me.
no,
Okay, so
On Corey's turn, he built a building right next to Nick.
that's right.
then I'm going to, for my second action, since I still have second action, I'm going to play my card that I just got.
There you
Why
go.
not?
Cool.
I have to do it for the bottom part, and the bottom part gives me an instant victory point.
Yep.
So
Which then you get a crate
I'm gonna get a crate.
for getting to 5
Wow,
VPs.
I think I'm winning, right?
Yep.
Yep.
You may unlock that crate for a free action whenever.
Okay. So I'm guessing a lot of times it's resources that you
Yeah,
just
you
like,
can look at it
and you can just like literally take
Yep.
resource
as a free
whenever.
Yep.
action. Yep.
Yeah.
And did you gain your crystal from that?
So I played this one.
Oh, you played
Yeah.
that. Oh,
So now I get one of those thingies.
oh yeah.
A module.
A module. and I'm gonna go with this mod.
Okay.
And
Then refresh the one you took.
So you immediately get a gear.
And then-
It's on the
Yep,
check mark.
and you got to flip.
Oh, is that how that works?
Yeah.
I immediately get
If you put it in the check mark space, you do.
Yep.
You can choose not
See
to
the
do
check
that.
mark space is there. Check mark space.
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay. Now in the future, anytime you play gray or green up there, you trigger that along with the card.
Okay, so then that was the second card that I got.
Cool. Now over to me. All right. Well, guys, I might be backed into a corner here with possibly my hibernation action coming up. Can I pull it off to where I don't? I don't think so. So I'm just going to use my whole turn to do the ore here, which is the hibernation. So going over the quick hibernation card here again, what it's saying is that any of the cards in hibernation immediately go into my active pool. If I had any cards left over in my active pool, they would stay there, and I would get them additionally on my next turn here. The next things is any of my workers that I played throughout the daytime now go into hibernation. Off to the side of the board. And remember, on a previous turn, I did put one of my active cards from the main board into hibernation right away, so I got that back. That's why I have 4 instead of 3 cards now. And then any of the energy I've spent on my machines go back to the center of the board, so they can be reused. My lever gets reactivated, and then I go up on the green track on the side of the main board there, and immediately get a module of my choice, which is fantastic. All right, I have a couple green cards, a yellow and a gray. Nothing with books. Unfortunately, I can't use my book ability to my advantage, really. But I'm going to take this green crystal one, put it below my player board to immediately get a crystal, and then replenish it. And that was my hibernation.
All right, I'm also going to hibernate on my turn. However, before everything kicks off as a free action, I'm going to spend my little energy to turn one resource into a crystal. I'm going to turn my gear into a crystal. And then I go through the same process Corey just did, where I put out my hibernated folks onto the field, take the ones I've used and add them to hibernation. You do not need to shuffle since they're just going to come back. Your energy resets, my switch resets, and then I also go up 1 on the hibernation track, take a module, and I'm going to take the double food and actually slot it in. Oh boy. We're going to slot it in on the bottom here to immediately receive 2 food. And that is my hibernation turn.
Okay, so if I see if I'm understanding the game correctly. So, first of all, I can use this to just get a resource of my choice with this free.
It does take an action.
Oh, it takes an action.
Yes,
So it's
that is the
either
one thing that'll be
up
tricky.
to 2 of these
Yeah.
or hibernation. You
I
can't
think.
do one of each.
Okay, so let's say I do that
Mhm.
as an action. So allow my first action. Then I go up to 2.
Okay.
Then
Would
I
you like to open your crate
I
yet?
think I'm opening my crate, which is 2 of the gear symbols. So I get 2 more gears.
You
Right?
keep the open, and you keep the open crate in front of you for
Yep.
possible end game scoring.
So then, what I was wanting to hope to be able to do is do a big building right here, because then I have 4 gears and a wild,
Very nice.
which means
Very nice.
I get
double of everything except for what's in the lake.
oh
Lake is only 1 because they're so good.
yeah. I was like, do I get 4?
But you still get a bunch of stuff out of that.
So I still get. Let me do the before I have to overthink.
Be
too
4
much.
green, 2 gray.
No matter what.
Yeah, 4 green. So, wait. Oh yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
So I've gone past this one.
Yep.
Which is a wild.
This goes up here.
So then I have to get.
Yep, you would take one of the available tokens.
And what is this saying at the bottom?
Those are just flasks. Those are used in endgame scoring, such as this tile.
Okay. I have one. So what does that? Oh,
That is when you activate it, you unlock that spot. This is permanently unlocking it. This is only when it's powered up. It's unlocked for that turn.
okay. And then this just powers to get a.
Or get
Yep.
another
And then-
module.
This one powers to.
That one allows you to, I'll have to look at the clarification on that one, but it allows you to move one unplayed card from your active area to the resting area, and you gain the top effect of that card.
So immediately active to resting and gain the top before you rest it. So you get it back next turn immediately. And it doesn't take up an active slot,
Okay.
which is kind of nifty.
So I'm gonna go with this one, I guess.
More
All right.
flasks.
And then since I got to 5, I can't flip this one because I need this one as well.
Correct.
Right?
You
Yep.
both unlock it.
But then for 7, now I'm able to flip this
Nope.
one.
It's tied to the yellow.
Oh, it's time to yellow.
Yes.
Which
Gosh.
maybe you might have go up, but do your gray next. So your gray is
Right.
going to go up 2.
Gray goes up 2. So 1, 2.
Yep.
And so this one goes.
And you get a light. So you're
Yeah,
covering
get
up
a
a
light.
lightning
Yeah,
bolt.
there you go. You get a
that
second energy,
into the middle. There you go.
which now you could potentially use this turn.
Oh, yeah, because now. Oh, yeah, this is any. But I don't have any resources to trade.
But now you have 2 wild upgrades.
Yep.
Okay. And you're suggesting for yellow, if I go up to 3,
Yep. There's one more, and you unlock that,
which is.
which gets you another green
Oh,
tile.
yeah, I'll do that. So yellow, so
Okay.
one of them at least. And that gives me green.
Yeah, that's a really good combo you've got going there.
Maybe I'll do. Don't want to just do that. Okay.
Okay, and you have one more wild track to go up.
And then, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, geez. Too much thinking here.
Yeah, the gray would unlock that.
Okay, let's do gray.
Okay.
And then I get an artifact.
Yep, you're covering up an artifact, so you get your choice at any one of the available ones up there.
You typically go for the color where you have the 2.
Probably the option that you think you're going to be able to score the most off of.
Kind of your strategy you're going for.
Yep.
Okay, I'll do this one. All right, and then I get a gray thing. So
What color did you take? I wasn't paying attention. Yellow, purple.
A purple one, yep.
So this 3 gears gets a victory point. That's just
Yep.
like an action.
You
Yep.
can spend up to 3 gears
Or-
for a point each.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then
That's 2 less to do a build action.
2 less gears.
Yep.
the last one.
Is spending a gear to reclaim one of the energy off your board.
Oh boy. Okay.
What color are you trying to? Oh, the gray.
Gray, yep.
I'll try the 2 less gears for a build is nice though. And the value of buildings is it lets you activate the things pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'll do 3 gears for a victory point.
Okay.
And now that was my.
First action.
That was still just my first action.
Well, you did.
No, that was my second action
Yeah,
because I
you
did
did
build.
switch
That was a
and then
build.
you
That was
did
a
a
build.
build.
So I'm
Yep.
done.
Yep.
And
Alright.
you hibernate. Oh, you start, and then it's a fluid thing.
Yeah,
Yep.
it just keeps going. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. So, now back over to me. I wanted that spot, but now I think I'm going to maybe try to explore a little bit. How expensive are those? Yeah, I could afford that. Maybe I will. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do an explore action. I am going to power up my 1 range to explore this tile, so I don't have to spend the 1 range to get there. And it costs 3 food. And I've got 2 food, and then I can spend my book as if it were food or a crystal. I'll just spend my book. So I've got 3 food for that. And I immediately get 2 victory points. And I get to take a card. And then I get to put that back on the board however I choose. What card would I like? Let's see, what does this one say here? Populate as a discount. Yeah, I kind of like that strategy, so I'll add that card here to my active pool. I'm going to place this out. We're going to go like that. Alright, so that was my Explorer. And the other thing I'd like to do is play a card. I'm going to play this one to the bottom. So I get a crystal out of that because it's green, so it matches the module. And then I also get to activate my special power, which is taking a disc off here. I get an energy for covering up that one. And then my special power is taking 2 books. So I get 2 books right back there, and my power there. Do I want to activate anything else yet? I don't think so. So I'm good.
All right, my turn is going to be pretty straightforward here. We're going to play a card. I'm going to play my yellow card into the bottom here to activate my special ability, which also then triggers my 2 food, which is exactly what I wanted anyway, off the top of the card. So I get the token off the board. My special ability lets me spend a food to buy a card. So I'll buy a card. I'll buy the yellow card up here. And since I'm buying a yellow card, my technology allows me then to gain a food back. So that pretty much pays for itself. And then my second option, I'm also going to play another card to play this in the bottom slot, which allows me then to take an explore action with an increased range of 2. So
Nice.
I'm actually going to come down here and explore this big guy because the range is 2. So I'll have to pay no additional food. I also already have 5 food, so I'll spend all of that to then gain 5 victory points, which will get me a crate, which I'll look at now, and another card, which I will then take. Whew. There's some good buggers up there. Let's take that gray guy, which will then get me a gear through my special ability.
here?
Yep. And now I can place my. We're gonna go like this, and we are done.
And before next turn, if you want to shoot it over to my board here, I just want to explain one other thing that hasn't come up yet that we haven't talked about, and that's these special cards here. Some of them have a top brown border to them, which
Top or bottom.
top or bottom, and depending on what half it's on, it tells you what card can be stacked either on top or bottom of it. So for example, this one has the top. If I were to place this, if I had the card here, then it also allows for me to place a card and stack it on top of it because it's got that natural border to it. Same thing if a card has the border on the bottom, you could then do the same thing on the bottom. These are kind of hard to come by, so we haven't really seen it stack higher than maybe 2 cards at a time, but that is just one other thing that we haven't
And
explained.
the biggest. So one thing to note with that is the biggest positive of getting those slotted cards is that if you put a matching color on top of the slotted card, you get to activate the benefits from both cards and also any modules that then match that card. You can play other colors into the extra slot, and maybe it still triggers a module below, but it wouldn't trigger both cards then.
Yeah, that's really good.
All right, Nick.
So, also, just out of curiosity, can you double lightning bolt a spot? Is that
No.
Yep. I figured. Okay.
It's already being powered up.
Yep.
So, yeah, trying to determine if I just if I hibernate here, because I could.
Still a free action to do it even if you were to hibernate.
Yeah, so I can hibernate. Yep. So I'm definitely then going to take advantage of my
Yes.
free
Module.
token module thingy, and I will go with the gray yellow one for gears, and bump up then my gears by 1.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'll do the hibernate, which going through the approach here, everything. Okay, yep, all the cards that I
Well,
So
First
anything
thing is that,
hibernation
yeah.
goes into
first,
active.
first all the cards that were hibernating are now playable. Then all the cards that were working go into hibernation,
Yep.
and then all my lightning bolts come back.
Those refresh. Your switch refreshes.
My switch refreshes, and
And
then
you get to go up on the right hand side of the main board there to get a bonus. So
yeah.
you get
It's another module.
another
Congratulations.
module. So I guess you can't go wrong with well, it's double gray, but
Yeah.
I guess that's the downside.
Better benefit, but only one color.
Well, never mind. I guess we'll do food. So I'll do that,
Want to throw a new one out?
Yep.
New module.
and then I get a food right away because I put it in a check mark.
Yep.
Correct.
Oh, wait a second. I see. If you ever get like a really good one, maybe.
Right, like I had double food.
Yeah, you got the double food. God, why? I haven't seen a double since you got the devil food. Where are all the doubles?
Or if you link that to that, they're both gray and yellow then. So anytime you do gray or yellow, you trigger both of them.
Okay.
So that could combo
I'm
with that
subtracting, and I'm going to do that. I like that idea.
It's pretty good.
Okay.
So,
And
that's your hibernation.
So I think we're just going to stop it there. That's a full round of playthrough where we've all now hibernated, which I think is a good place to stop. It gives you a great feel for the game, how the different phases work, the actions that we've taken. Yeah, I don't know, Corey, is there anything else you want to add?
No, other than I do think it is a really fun game. Like I said, we're going to review the game later, I think, too, after Nick gets a couple plays under his belt as well. So keep that in mind for future video content. Keep an eye out for that. And as always, if you like the content here, like and subscribe the video. Leave comments below if you like the game or not, or if you have any other questions that we failed to go over here in the video, we can answer those in the comment section below. And until next time, you all have fun gaming.